Hello everyone and welcome to Phoenix Gaming. This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. I don't even know if I'm going to end up posting this, we'll see. But essentially what I'm going to do right now is go through and start planning my WBC Board Gaming Championships schedule for this year. So it's happening in just a couple of weeks. The World Board Gaming Championships is the best board game convention that I've ever been to, as far as I'm concerned. There's lots of great conventions for lots of different reasons. This one is wonderful because it's just all games all the time on a pretty tight schedule. So there's just always so much to do, and picking and choosing what to do is a really important difficult opportunity cost aspect of going to this convention. There's just so much going on, so many options. Um, I also sometimes make, changes. I make lots of changes in the moment. I've got family and friends that attend this convention. I will change my mind, but I do this pre-process every year. And so for folks who are a little bit curious about how I maybe think about this, this is your opportunity to see how I kind of pre-plan my schedule. So I am planning on attending the first Saturday. We're probably going to have to leave a little bit early to get here on time. But let's just assume that I can ask to leave earlier if I need to. And so an option here, Age of Renaissance is a game that's kind of a very old school game. And I play it here and there. It's not that important to me to play it, but it sometimes is a schedule that's off with the rest of the schedule. So I'll consider playing that. There's nothing really else at 9 that I want to play. At 10, I can play San Juan or Small World, but I don't generally play those games. I'm not a big fan. Through the Ages, though, I do quite like. I usually do okay. I did win one year, but that was a total fluke, a very clear demonstration of just uh, of other folks beating each other up, and I somehow managed to come out on top. At 11 o'clock here, Terra Mystica is actually a game that I really quite like. I think it's a very, very competitive field going into it this year, so I don't like my odds for playing the game, but I do enjoy playing it. I haven't played it in person in ages, so pretty appealing there. So I've got 3 pretty conflicting options there. It'd be really nice if any of these options, it's quite reasonable for any of these options to finish for Seven Wonders Duel at 12. I'm a fan of this game, and I like the format. I think that Chris is still running it. I like the format that he's done with the pods and the single elimination. I just think it's a nice clean way of playing this game. That's why it's listed as 2 hours instead of just the one. So what you see is essentially what I'm just starting off by doing is kind of pinging what things are available at what time. So at 2 o'clock, there's nothing at 1 that I want to play. I don't really care for Catan too much. 2 o'clock is when sort of some other options come up for me. So this is sort of essentially my morning block, right? Like AOR conflicts with TTA, conflicts with TM, and then all of them sort of have this question mark of like, can I end by noon? So like Through the Ages is quite unlikely to end by noon. And Age of Renaissance also quite unlikely, but Terra Mystica certainly won't be done by noon. So this is a mild bonus for, I think, Through the Ages there. But essentially I have to choose, one of these top 3 games to play. Seven Wonders Duel is not important enough to me that I'm going to not play one of these 3 games here unless I can't arrive in time. So this is sort of block 1 right here. This Seven Wonders Duel is just kind of frosting on the cake. Because the reality is I'm only going to probably be able to play one of these 3 games, and we're going to decide which one it is later, because I like all of them, and you'll see how we get to making that decision point. So that's block 1. So let's move forward to kind of the afternoon block here. Dominion, Agricola are both no's for me. Oh, they put Agricola down to 2 hours this year. It's historically been a 3-hour game. I like Agricola fine. I'm awful at it compared to the people that go to this convention. I love Great Western Trail, though. That's very likely to be my game that I play at 2 o'clock, unless there's something that I want to play at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, we've got Seven Wonders and Russian Railroads. Russian Railroads is a game that I quite dig and I think I'm pretty solid at. So that's kind of looks like the afternoon contender block. I have set a sort of a goal for myself that I'd love to play Monsters Menace America again this year. It's something that I haven't played for a few years, and I dig it. I also don't get to play it under any other circumstances. And here you see my blocks start to get a little bit messy because I've got things that are going to be overlapping with each other. So we've got AOR from 5 to 11, which is probably going to be in the chopping block. Usually that game only gets played if it is is of several options. So there are no other options or one other option. So Beyond the Sun here. We've got a lot going on at 5 that we like. We like Cascadia too. They listed at 2 hours, but I'm pretty sure that game could play in 1, which is something for me to keep in mind. Gangsters is a game that I would play, but I'll be honest, I'm not going to choose it over any of those other games there. Medici is another game just like Cascadia that could probably realistically play in 1 hour, but just not consistently enough that it can actually do that. I'd love to learn John Company, but I don't really think that learning 5-hour games at WBC is how I spend my time. All the respect to people that do that. I love that for them. I have enough opportunities to learn games, I think, in the rest of my life. Maybe not as much recently as I did during the pandemic, for instance. But there's opportunities for me to learn games. So I tend to use this more of the time to play games that I feel like I'm more competitive in. And then it looks like we got a little bit of a gap until 7 o'clock here. So this is sort of block 2 here. And you'll notice that block 2 has certainly non-conflicting things in it. In fact, it's pretty likely here that because we've got a couple things that end at 5, let me refocus this. We've got a couple things that end at 5 and then a bunch of things that start at 5. Monsters Menace America, unfortunately, is just not going to make the cut here. So we're going to be playing Great Western Trail or Russian Railroads in the afternoon, followed by a 5 o'clock game. Almost certainly not Age of Renaissance because there's a couple of things going on. Also, goes over dinner. Yeah, we've got stuff that we want to play later on. So Age of Renaissance is going to be on the chopping block. So we're either playing Beyond the Sun, Cascadia, or Medici. Again, we'll roll back based on what we know in the future. So now we've actually been able to split this into 2 more blocks here. So afternoon, late afternoon. An advantage of Cascadia and Medici here is that I have enough time to go grab some quick food if that's a thing that I want to do. Because it's 7 o'clock here. It looks like we've got some 5 tribes action going on. Defending champion over here. I guess I could play Agricola instead, but the reality is that I would play 5 tribes. I just care for the game more. So interesting that Catan is fully a first Saturday game. Automobile at 9 o'clock is very likely going to be the game that I play. It's my team game this year. There's only 2 heats, so there's not a lot of opportunities. But, I'm also greedy with my time, so I'll play in just the second heat if it makes sense, because, man, there's a lot of stuff that I would love to play at this time. I basically play everything under this list here at the 9 o'clock time. Yeah, I like all of these. Dang. So that's a tough call for me. And then whatever, maybe we play the late night game. I don't generally put the late night games in there unless they're ones I really care about. Las Vegas is a game I don't much care for. But I'll play it if I happen to be stumbling by and have nothing else better to do. So it looks like 5 tribes actually just for sure gets to live. It's like kind of a guaranteed game because of its timing, short of me, getting dinner with the fam or something like that. And then I'm choosing between a handful of these games. And again, I have not actually sort of selected my primary game. And as I said, as I go through the week, I'll make different decisions as I'm going through. But let's move on to the next day, first Sunday. First Sunday. Wake up in the morning. We like Azul. Nice quick breath of air. That's just an hour, I assume. It is Great Western Trail. That's a huge block. Small World. Vegas Showdown's all right. Probably not going to play it over either of these other 2, but it's always a chance. Don't need to attend any of the demos. I like Robo Rally, but I never, ever wind up playing Robo Rally because it's time. The way the time for this one is scheduled just never syncs up with the other stuff that I'm doing. So it gets really, really messy. Delve Afflicted at 11 is always good fun. I'd really like to play Gaia Project this year. This is something that I've been practicing a bit about, and I'd like to test my chops against folks in real life because I've only been playing online. So I have sort of a little bit of a preference for getting that game played this year. And you'll notice that I actually haven't created any blocks yet, even though I'm through a fair amount of time yet. And that's actually because there's a lot of overlapping here. And so games will end up taking priority essentially because they don't have conflicting blocks. And then we get into an interesting situation here where I am running Everdell. And Everdell here is at 1 to 3. So this becomes essentially a lock block. And what that means for me is that I'm not playing Gaia Project, unfortunately, then, because it's conflicting with the game that I'm running. So we're locked out here, and that essentially makes this our first block here. We could be looking at doing something like Azul and Russian Robo Rally. Robo Rally sometimes also finishes in time for another game of Azul. We could be playing Great Western Trail and Azul. That's a good choice. We could be doing like Vegas Showdown and a Delve Afflicted. In an ideal world, we could finish. Oh, did I freeze? Looks like I have frozen here. Hey, we've caught up. All right. I don't know what you missed in the vocals there, so I'm just going to say it again. There's kind of a couple options here. Right now, what I'm looking at is Great Western Trail 9-12 and Azul 12-1 seems kind of ideal. There's also a world sometimes where Great Western Trail finishes in 2 hours. I think that's quite reasonable. So I can play a Delve Afflicted at 11. The other option is something like Azul Robo Rally. I think pretty much at this point we're convinced we're not playing Vegas Showdown because there's other good options in there. And I love Robo Rally. I just never really get a chance to play it at these conventions. So that's probably what the morning block looks like here. And we're moving on to our post-Everdell time. We really want to play Arc Nova this year. I know it's going to be really, really busy and a really time-consuming game, but I'd like to test my mettle against other players. I think I've played a decent amount and think that I would be quite prepared to play this game. But of course, this time of day, this 3 o'clock time, tends to be kind of messy in terms of a lot of conflicting options that I would play. Stone Age is a game that I will play, but I'm actually not going to put it on this list. It really only becomes a game that I play when there are no other options. Unlikely that I'm going to choose. Through the Ages is a little bit like Age of Renaissance, which is just shorter on the list, where I end up not really choosing it because if it conflicts with too many things. If it conflicts with one thing, like it does on the first day, that's fine. Galaxy Trucker here is definitely a winner for me. This one also I don't get to play as much as I would like because it's always sort of like in off hours. The GM plays Titan, which just clearly has a different kind of schedule than what my life looks like. And so Splendor here at 5 o'clock, like, I will play Splendor if I like happened to be free and stroll over, but I don't put it on my schedule because I don't tend to make decisions about it. Like Azul's a game that I like a lot more, whereas Splendor is a game that I will jam in if I have nothing else going on. I'd skip it for going to dinner if there was something like that that was happening. So it looks like here, well, actually, it does get interesting through the Ages. So let's keep looking. We've got Cascadia at 6, ostensibly to 8. St. Pete's. This is another game where I just never play in enough heats to pass. I like often will win like 1 heat, and that's no good for me. Raw Dice, man, I love this game. That's a 1 hour game that I will go out of my way to play when possible. Scythe is a game I'm excited to play. It's been a hot minute since I've played. I need to get actually brushed up and fresh, and I really can't create any blocks yet, so we're going to keep on rolling down. And now we get sort of our first interesting notation here. So, I mean, first of all, let's mark the Terraforming Mars. Another game that I dig. It's worth a gazillion laurels if you can win it, too. But it's a lot of work to get there. Wingspan, which I would really only be playing because they're playing with the alternate rules. All right, so now we've got Through the Ages, which gets a little star because it's a semifinal game. And if this doesn't conflict with so many things, yeah, see, this is the thing with Through the Ages, is that the tournament list for it doesn't end up conflicting with very many things throughout the rest of the schedule in terms of semifinals, and so it ends up moving up in priority for me. So we've got at 10 o'clock Agizia, Medici, or Ra. That's our last block there, essentially. With the 10 to 12, we don't care about win, place, and show. Okay, so this became quite the long list, and you'll probably not be able to read my handwriting at the bottom here, so you just have to bear with me. So at 3 o'clock, we've got Arc Nova, Beyond the Sun, Monsters Menace America, Terra Mystica, and Through the Ages. Also Galaxy Trucker. They're essentially running this 4 to 6 time slot. And then 6 to 8, we've got Cascadia, St. Pete's. 7 to 8, we've got Raw Dice or Scythe at 7 to 10. Terraforming Mars at 8, Wingspan at 8, Through the Ages at 8. Now, I really do want to play Scythe, but unfortunately, Scythe is kind of double conflicting here. It conflicts backwards and forwards with games that I like to play, and so I'm inclined to not play Scythe so that I can kind of create a chopped block at 8 o'clock onwards. And, right, see, like now this, like Scythe becomes a game that essentially takes the 8 o'clock slot because of the way that it runs over there. So instead, I'm likely to play something like Wingspan and Agizia or Terraforming Mars or Through the Ages semifinal if I get there. So Through the Ages right now has kind of like a little bump in this block here because it's not conflicting with other things so far. So I'm more inclined right now to play Through the Ages as my game on first Saturday, given the fact that it's only conflicting with a couple of heats that I like to play, but none of these are essential for me to play. So there's a fair amount of wiggle room there. I'm really tempted to play Cascadia at 6 because, like I said, St. Pete's is only okay, and I'm pretty confident that there's not pretty confident. There's a very reasonable world where Cascadia finishes in time for raw dice, and worst case scenario, it doesn't. I can go get some food. So these guys are a little bit higher in the list for me. My mom and I have been practicing Cascadia for the World Series of Board Gaming, different event. And so I think that might be fun to try. I'm leaning currently towards doing an Arc Nova because being done by 5 gives me no advantages over being done by 6. So Arc Nova is quite likely here, but I guess I could come back and play any of these others. Through the Ages is the only one that's a little bit sus here as it kind of knocks out some other options for me. Although it's not the worst. It conflicts with a lot of stuff. I'd rather kind of like play on my first Saturday and then know whether or not I'm playing in the semifinals because there are other good options here. Like I don't need to ride or die Through the Ages. So that's likely kind of going to be the priority list there. We'll move on to Monday. Monday's going to be an early morning. Got to get up and get stuff done. But then at 9 o'clock, we get to play some games. So we've got I don't like Acquire, but I've made a commitment because of World Series of Board Gaming that if I have a free opportunity to play it, I will do so. So for instance, if I've already like passed Long and Azul and there's no other games here that I want to play, then I'll play Acquire. But it looks like it's probably going to get knocked out by many other options. We've got Evolution. We've got Monsters Menace America here. We've got Scythe because we skipped it to the last prior night. It's probably an option, and then a bunch of stuff we're not too concerned about. Great. 9 to 12, 9 to 11. So let's see what else we got going on in the morning here. Brass, very similar. I wanted to get I want to up my level in Brass. So Brass is a game that I would really like to play this year for the same reason that I want to be playing Gaia Project. I've been practicing a little bit. I'm still crap at it, but I want to get better. Sagrada is a game I'll always play for an hour. Happy to play that. Got an ADV at 11. Delver Afflicted. Defending champion, baby. Beyond the Sun's all over the place in this early map here. El Grande is a game that I'll play, but I like the other two games, I think, more than it. And then looks like we've got not a thing at 12. Although we've got Brass coming in here, so we should still go to the 1 o'clock list here. I'll sometimes play Sekigahara, but frankly, it's not something that that'll knock out other things in my schedule. St. Pete's. Vegas Showdown. Bunch of fine options. Okay. And here we have Terra Mystica semifinals from 1 to 4. We haven't blocked anything yet because we've got a fair amount of overlap. So let's keep on rolling here. Take a look at what's going on in the afternoon. Charioteer is a game that if I have an opportunity to learn because it's brand new, I would certainly potentially put that on there. So it's fun to know that it's there, but because it's not likely to knock anything out. So I'm not going to note it down now, but I might in other instances. Underwater City is a game that I like. 2 hours. That is a bold claim for Underwater Cities, my friend. Barrage I like and I would play, but it's rated as a C class this year. It's a game that I think is really only good if everyone knows what's going on. And I only sort of know what's going on. And 4 hours gets the axe. Here we go. 4 o'clock. We got some Formula D action. I actually only will play Formula D if there's nothing good going on. So Gaia Project's going to take the potential winner there. Or, we've got Space Station Phoenix, which is a game that I've learned and was played for a bit on Board Game Arena. So that was fun. We're just going to keep rolling here, and then we're going to block everything afterwards because there's just too many conflicting options. Scythe from 6 to 9. Arc Nova, 7 to 10. Gangsters, Orleans. Got a lot of stuff going on there. Nothing at 8, fortunately. 9 o'clock. We've got 5 tribes. We've got Lost Ruins. In the Dream World, we've got the Terra Mystica finals. And then we've got Agizia at 11. All right. So now we try to figure out what this day looks like. So in the morning, we are probably just interest-wise looking at Monsters Menace or Evolution or Scythe or Brass. The advantage of playing, so the disadvantage of playing Brass is that it goes till 2, and there's a lot of things that start at 1. So it's a really good chance. Is Brass 4 hours? I just want to make sure that's correct. It's 3 hours. It's 10 to 1. Okay. That makes more sense. I was skeptical. Probably I just did bad at math. All right, so we've got a fair amount of conflict here. So essentially what we have is what I call like a split block. So we've got either the option of doing these like 9 to 10 or 9 to 11 games, and then like this, right? These 10 and 11 to 1 games, or one of these. So this is the split block. Like this whole thing here is essentially 2 sub blocks that could be 1 block depending on what I choose, right? I am either playing Scythe, or I'm playing Brass, or I'm playing an early game and a later game in the morning. And so generally what I'll do in these instances is just kind of whatever I feel like, or again, if I roll back based on what I learn for future days. So we'll come back to this to kind of figure out what the priorities here. My inclination is that I'm going to wind up playing Scythe or Brass. Brass has the advantage of following a game of Azul. So I could do like Azul Brass, which is actually pretty tempting. Terra Mystica here, 1 to 4 is actually a pretty wide open spot. So that moves Terra Mystica up here. And the Terra Mystica final is actually also pretty reasonable. So yeah, Terra Mystica Through the Ages are looking like my first Saturday game. And frankly, this final is not a big problem for me one way or another. I'm pretty sure that Through the Ages final is going to be on Tuesday morning, which is even more ideal. But frankly, I'm a better Terra Mystica player than I am a Through the Ages player. So I'll probably wind up playing TM, but it sort of just depends on my mood and also maybe my arrival time on that day. If I'm not playing Terra Mystica, I can play like a Cascadia or a St. Pete's or Vegas Showdown and then go into like a Underwater Cities here. Although I'd really like to play, here's another advantage of Terra Mystica, is I can play Gaia Project from 4 to 7. And if I advance there, and then if I somehow miss that, I could play like Space Station instead. If I'm playing Gaia Project 4 to 7 here, that means I'm not playing Scythe at 6 to 9 here, which actually means that this sort of moves up a little bit in priority. If I want to play Scythe this year and I'm not playing in the 7 to 10 block because we said that was pretty unideal, then I might actually have to end up playing in this block, because if I don't want to play this 6 to 9 block, again, unfortunately, this covers earlier games that I want to play and covers later games that I want to play. So this is a pretty unideal Scythe spot. So this Scythe location here is actually kind of becoming my one chance if I want to advance in that game this year. Just a game I think I'm like second place like all sorts of years in that game. But I'm always a bridesmaid. Arc Nova here. This is the second heat, and it's pretty reasonable. When was the Terra Mystica final? Is that 9? Sometimes people will let you move finals, so I'm not too concerned about that, I think. But what that's saying to me is I might not be able to play Arc Nova, which is moving up Arc Nova to kind of be my one chance of being played on the prior day. All right, that's what we got. This is a long journey, by the way. We're 25 minutes in. We're only a couple days into the event, so we'll end up rolling back and everything too. Tuesday is at least an easy day because we don't have anything going on in the daytime. We hang out, we do the auction, all sorts of good stuff that way. But there's no games in the morning that we play because we don't play any of the war games. This is generally when the Through the Ages final is going to be. And hey, maybe it would be when the Terra Mystica final would be if we advanced there or in either. We do need to do our Everdell demo at 4 o'clock. So we're just going to put that there so we don't forget. And I think we have 6 o'clock as our game of Everdell. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to put that there. So 6 to 8 is Everdell. That's locked in. We can do a quick look at what we're missing. Not a lot. Turn taxes, I guess. Acquire, I guess. Yeah, we're actually really, really happy with that Everdell schedule right there. That's much nicer. 8 o'clock here. Looks like we got maybe Lost Ruins. And we have also the Egizia semifinals. So if I get to play one of those late night Egizia games. Problem with Egizia that I often have is I'll get to play like one of them and not multiple. So I don't always advance because even if I win one, it's generally not enough. That's the toughest part about it. I'll play Power Grid. I like Power Grid, but I don't generally play it at WBC because of its 3-hour time slot. Yeah, I mean, the reality is I'm going to be playing Lost Ruins of Arnak, which I'd rather play. And then 10 o'clock, I could play like Orleans or Stone Age. At 11, we get a raw dice. Does that knock out the 10 o'clock game? Sort of depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. It's always a chance that I like haven't eaten at any point until then. Well, not on a Tuesday, but you know, it happens. All right, let's move on over to Wednesday. That was a nice easy day because we basically don't have conflicts, right? Our conflict is like, do we get into the Egizia semifinals and play Lost Ruins? Then we just kind of choose whichever of these games at 10 o'clock that we feel like playing, or going hanging out with our friends if we want to. That's always an option as well. All right, Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Wow, do we really have nothing Wednesday at 9 o'clock? All right, the Arc Nova quarters. 9 to 12. Man, the fact that there is nothing at 9 or 10 that I would play. I mean, there's stuff at 11 that I would play, but to me, this really moves Arc Nova up as a thing that I want to play. So I'm actually going to go back and put even kind of another notation here. Let's just do this. I'd really like to have my time filled, especially in kind of the premium slots. So since I don't have anything at 9 or 10 in the morning here, it'd be great to be playing Arc Nova. Unfortunately, it does mean that I wouldn't be able to play Delve Afflicted or Castles of Mad King at 11. I guess if I finished my game in time. Or Root. Oh, man, this is rough. Why couldn't any of these be at 9 o'clock? So Root is a game that I just started learning this year, and my close friends and I have been playing it a whole bunch, and like it's a game that I'd love to test my mettle with other people here. Scythe semifinals at 12. God, this is an awkward day, yo. Well, I guess actually if I go to the Arc Nova quarterfinals and the Scythe semifinals, it's actually sort of perfect in some way. Let's see what our 1 to 3 o'clock looks like. There's just nothing at 1 o'clock. We don't play any of these things. We sure don't. 2 o'clock. I mean, 2 o'clock, we like Lost Cities. The Adele. It's 2 to 4. 3 o'clock. We've got the Scythe final. Got Space Station Phoenix. St. Pete's, I guess. I think I'd probably play Space Station over St. Pete's. The Adele finals at 4. All right, let's pause for a second. What is the Nuts demo? Just like, what could that be? Okay, so a couple things here. So, right, like, if I don't get to the Arc Nova quarters, then I've got a couple things going on here. And if I've got a couple things going on here, well, it sort of conflicts with the Scythe semifinal. So I really, really want to get to the Arc Nova quarterfinals if I'm also getting to the Scythe semifinal. And if I am not getting into the Arc Nova quarterfinals and I'm not getting into the Scythe semifinal, then I have a little bit more of a normal day going on here with like these going to like, actually almost certainly what I would play is Root to go to 11 to 2 because I've got stuff going on potentially at 2 o'clock, but I don't really have anything going on at 1 o'clock. So Root is essentially the I did not pass in either of these games, so probably knocks out all these other bad boys. But really what I'd like is Arc Nova and Scythe to be my day. And so again, I'm going to go back and I've got these like 1 chances for both of these games. So I'm pretty sure that like Arc Nova is getting played here, and I'm pretty sure that Scythe is getting played here. If I want to make a presence or showing in those games this year, which I do have kind of like a certain preference for getting them points. All right, let's move on to our following blocks, because this is sort of it all kind of spills together because it does sort of depend on which situation, which world we're living in, but this really is kind of the one block right there. So we'll go on to the evening. I guess actually we've got stuff going on at 5, so we'll start at 5, the early evening. So we've got Orléans at 5 to 7. We've got Turn and Toxies. I probably won't play enough Turn to make it worth it, but I think they do quarterfinal, so actually it is worth playing the 1 game. Ooh, Azul. Doesn't really conflict with much. Right? Oh, it does conflict with the Scythe final. 5. That's really interesting. Okay. Well, that's something to note, that Scythe and Azul conflict, but it's a final versus playing in a semifinal here. So is there a quarterfinal for Azul? Yes. Okay. Hold on. Let's roll back. We made a mistake. We've got the Azul quarters at 3. 3 to 4. Pretty funny that they go from 3 to because they have it as 2 hours, so that's 3 to 5. So Azul directly conflicts with Adele Verflicted, and it conflicts only in the sense of if I'm in the Scythe finals, which becomes a very easy choice, right? A finals versus a quarterfinals or anything like that. So helpful for me to kind of like know these sort of conflicts in advance as I'm like making decisions on the spot. I kind of like to keep in mind these like forks of options that I have going into things along the way here. All right, so what do we got? 6 o'clock. Galaxy Trucker. Got another route opportunity here. Azul finals. I'm not going to mark that because it's far down the list there. 7 o'clock here. Oh, man. We got Gaia Project. All sorts of stuff. Wow. We've got Medici. When I'm running out of space here, I'll often do this where I've got Medici, Ra, Russian Railroads. All these are 2 hours. 7 to 9. Sagrada for a 7 to 8. In case there's something I want to play at 8. Terraforming Mars if I want to play 7 to 11. Is that what it is? Yeah, 7 to 11. Oh, and then there's the Beyond the Sun semifinal here. Oh, this time became bloody fast. All right, 8's got Tighten the Arena, which I just kind of jam in there if it's available, but only then. All right, and then we've got an interesting thing because we got Automobile at 9, which, we need to play one of the heats of Automobile at the very least. And the Automobile game is conflicting with the semifinal of Medici or the final of Beyond the Sun. I don't really ever advance in Medici, so I probably don't need to worry about that. Got Cascadia going on at 11. I pretty much always play Can't Stop, but Cascadia semifinal at 11. So, all right. So what does this all mean to me? We've got some mess of like Arc Nova and Scythe stuff going on, or a couple sort of like replacement things that might look like, Root, and some lighter stuff like Lost Cities, or maybe I've advanced in Adele or Azul. I think it is safe to advance in Azul even if we're playing Scythe, because we can kind of hedge against, like, if we don't get to the finals of Scythe, at least we can play in the quarterfinals of Azul, knock out that afternoon. That's okay. There's no big sacrifices there. These games from 5 to 7, I could choose one of these. None of them I'm especially excited for. I'm unfortunately more excited for Galaxy Trucker at 6 and Root at 6, but then those end up spilling into the evening choices like Gaia Project from 7 to 10. Which yeah, we're running out of options to play. I think on that prior day we're really gonna have to play that one heat of Gaia Project and hope to win that one, so I can play the semifinals. Medici Raw, Russian Rails I like, but again, might get knocked out here. Sagrada is not really worth it because of the Through the Ages of 8 is really not worth it, so very unlikely we're gonna play that. And then all of this stuff is even contingent upon whether I advance in Beyond the Sun or not. So all sorts of wild stuff going on here. It's a pretty good chance I'm going to wind up playing Automobile at 9 to 12 on this night, which is a little bit awkward for Cascadia. So I have to sort of see what that looks like, and it's definitely awkward for Gaia Project. So I've got some like awkward forks going on this Wednesday here. This is one of those things where it's, by this time, I've played a bunch of days. I have a sense of what I'm more interested in going to play, what I've already advanced in. None of these tell me like, ooh, I definitely shouldn't play an XYZ thing. I guess sort of the Automobile question is one of the main questions, in that like if I don't play the first heat of Automobile, I can't really play Cascadia anymore with any seriousness, because there's almost no way that Automobile finishes in 2 hours for me to play Cascadia. So something to mentally keep in mind, but unlikely to make a huge difference essentially in what I'm on about. All right, we're getting later on in the week here. We're at Thursday. It's B17 day. It's a great day for me to go and check my friends all day long, but we don't play B17 because we've got Laurels to win. Panzer, Titan, War at Sea. There's a bunch of stuff we don't care about here. Russian Rails semifinals. Okay, so this is actually pretty nice. This means that if Great Western Trail has conflicts in other instances, we can end up essentially not playing it here. Sort of one of the things that's actually a little goofy here is that earlier in the week I'm deciding between playing Great Western Trail and Russian Railroads, and what's bizarre is if I choose Russian Railroads and I advance to the semifinal, essentially it knocks out both of these heats of Great Western Trail. Is this the third heat of Great Western Trail? So there's got to be another GWT somewhere. First Sunday, GWT. So this might end up moving up the list, because it might be the only time I can play Great Western Trail if I'm also planning on playing Russian Railroads. Or I can essentially say I don't care about Russian Railroads, play Great Western Trail here, play Great Western Trail here, sort of like guarantee, not guarantee, but I mean, me playing 2 games in the heats, I feel very, very confident that at that point I would be able to advance to the next round. I guess I should also mark Vegas Showdown in the extremely unlikely event that that's a game that I end up choosing and that I end up advancing in that game. But it's, again, like I said, not too likely. Oh, okay. Just in case, we'll mark that Seven Wonders Duel is at 11 here. Not a lot this day in terms of games straight up that I want to play. It's a little bit awkward. Although I guess there's not a lot of contests here. Okay, here we go. Of course, Everdell conflicts with stuff that I care about here. So we've got Everdell from 1 to 3. So our morning block, like I said, sort of depends on if we advance Russian Rails, but maybe it's Great Western Trail and Raw Dice, and then we just kind of got to decide if we end up advancing in any of these other things. Stone Age, Orleans, and Seven Wonders Duel. So Seven Wonders Duel semifinal conflicts with Everdell here, which is not the end of the world. Like sometimes people are flexible about like what you do with your schedule, but it does move Seven Wonders Duel down the list in case people don't want to be flexible, because I don't like dropping out in the middle of a tournament, but I have to go run this game that I'm running. So usually people can figure out something for that, but not always, right? So it does move Seven Wonders Duel down a little bit for me. Same with Orleans, but people are generally a little bit more flexible about moving finals if that's required. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Root here, I should note, is at 2. So if I want to play Root, I'm playing it on the previous day. Man, this sucks. Like, it's just really bad for my schedule this year. And I hate that because I was pretty excited to play it at WBC this year. But when something that I'm excited to play knocks out multiple other things that I'm excited to play, it moves down the list, right? So maybe if I abruptly kind of feel like that's important to me, I'll do something about it. And then looks like, again, we're sort of praying that Arc Nova gets us through, because there's nothing really we play at 3 except for maybe like Ticket to Ride, I guess. But yeah, we're really hoping to, I think, get to the semifinals here. Although on the other hand, worst case scenario, actually, we get to play Monsters Menace America. So we do get to make our sort of final heat of that if we want to. 5 o'clock, it's worth us noting that Root and Wingspan are in this block here. So we've got like, yeah, we've got a fair amount of stuff there. There's got to be a Wingspan quarterfinal somewhere. Was there? Did I miss that? Wingspan quarter. Maybe there aren't quarters. Maybe they just do a couple heats. Or I missed it. It's not that important because it's not like it's that high on my list anyway. But it's good for me to know that Wingspan conflicts with Root, conflicts with Arc Nova. So, you know, of those 3 games, like, they're all bumping heads with each other. Those are all semifinals that are getting in each other's ways. We've got Brass in the evening, Underwater Cities in the evening, Formula D. 7 o'clock, we're looking at Sagrada. Although there's the Raw quarterfinals. Although it didn't really look like we've got a lot of time to play Raw this year. Raw is usually kind of like a lower decision point game for me. Sure, I'll put the Wingspan final in here just in case. I mean, who am I kidding? I don't think it's really going to happen. Dune Imperium. Dune I've been trying to learn this game also for WSBG, so I would certainly be happy to play that. Terraforming Mars quarter. Yeah, this Terraforming Mars is just so greedy with time. 4 hours is just such a serious, severe block for me to commit to, that it makes it really hard to say that I'm going to kind of make that happen. All right, so we got 5 tribes here. Got Ra. So now we know that like Ra versus 5 tribes, certainly. We know Arc Nova versus Root versus Wingspan. Yeah, those are our conflicts that we've had so far there. Okay. And then at 11 o'clock, we've got Cascadia and Ra. I'm less greedy about filling my evenings. Like, you know, frankly, if I don't end up advancing in any of these kinds of things here, like, there's a decent chance I'll end up playing 5 tribes. But like if I end up, playing Evolution and then being done for the night, like that's great. I don't mind being done 10, 11 o'clock, not having more going on there. All right, we're on our final lap here. We're at 45 minutes. Nice. Friday is usually a rough day. Crokinole, that's hilarious. I love that they're doing a Crokinole event this year. It's not where I'm going to be spending my time, but I love that they're going to do it. Castles of Burgundy I should get better at, but I don't like it, so I won't. It's a chill day so far. Lost Cities, raw dice. What do we got here? Oh, automobile. Oh no. That's awful. I love these games. Sort of the Russian rails. To see if people would be willing to reschedule. So automobile is my team game this year, which, team games are whatever, but I do also love automobile. Great Western Trail I also really love. I did not realize that these games directly conflicted with one another. When their semifinals conflict, it's sort of like there's nothing that can be done about that, right? There's no way any of that can be changed. So essentially, I have to acknowledge that I'm only going to be advancing in one of these games this year, which means when I go back to earlier, I say to myself, all right, Great Western Trail versus Russian Rails. Russian Rails has just moved up the list for me, and it has moved up the list for me, hopefully here as well. But Great Western Trail has essentially gone down a little bit because assuming that I advance an automobile, which I might not, I can't play in the semifinal anyway. I play a lot of Great Western Trail in my life. I just really like the game. I really like getting practice. Really want to win again this year at the WSBG. But man, the odds of doing that are low. But you can always get more practice. All right. But either way, I'd like to have one of them because otherwise I got very little going on this morning. Yeah, very little going on this morning. Splendor conflicts with all these. So Splendor, again, just even further down the list for us, which is totally fine. I guess, so this is an instance where we make a note that Charioteer plays from 10 to 12, and maybe we go learn that game because it's not really conflicting with anything else if we're not in any of these semifinals here. Euphrat and Tigris is a great game, but I like it more on paper than I do in practice, so I never really wind up playing it. 12 o'clock, we got a couple, oh my god. 12 o'clock, we've got the Arc Nova final, which is conflicting with the Automobile final. That is a nightmare, but again, maybe people will be flexible and I could reschedule one of those finals if I were to advance in both of them. What a friggin' mess. Dune Imperium at 2 in case one of these, hopefully, finals that I'm in, or if I don't get into either of them, is like a dud. Yikes, Friday is not a nice day, Bob. I mean, I'm going to play Dune Imperium over Concordia, but in case we're done by 3, not done by 2. Oh, okay, here, we've got Gaia Project, so we finally see where Gaia's going on. Gaia's conflicting with Monsters, which is fine. Robo Rally. Space Station Phoenix. What a mess. So we make this note also. We've got Gaia Project versus Space Station Phoenix versus Monsters Menace America versus Robo Rally. So what that means for us is when, we advance in one of these games, we move the rest of the games down our list later in the week for all those times that we have those conflicts where we haven't really decided what it is that we're going to play yet. Castles. No Sagrada quarters? Did I miss a quarter? St. Pete's. Getting tired because I'm just defaulting to my terrible handwriting. Down to 6. We got ourselves some Galaxy Trucker, folks, just in case we're not playing something from 5 to 7. And we're not in the Gaia Project finals. Or the Sagrada finals, which I'm not even going to write down. We got another last chance brass here. Lost Ruins of Arnak. Conflicting with some Terraforming Mars. And St. Pete's. We're not really worried about that. 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock, we got actually a lot of stuff going on, so we're going to expand over here. We've got 9 to 11 Acquire if we're just trying to play that game. 9 to 11 Concordia, which is fine. We've got some Evolution, some 5 Tribes, some Arnak. These are conflicts as well, but 2 of them are finals, so we're not going to put them in the shame bin over there. And then we love Liar's Dice. Liar's Dice is our favorite evening game. I think it's really fun. So anytime I can try to play it, make that happen. Yeah, so this day, it really depends on what we advance in. And then we we're hoping to advance in certain things. Like we want to advance in one thing in the morning. We're then really hoping that, I want to play Arc Nova and Automobile. I'd love to be in the finals of both those games. Our afternoon here looks like kind of depends on what this is. Kind of depends on if we're in Gaia, Monsters Menace America, or Space Station Phoenix, any of that. We can fill in our day with a Castles of Mad King, unless we're in any of these or still playing in one of these. We can play Galaxy Trucker unless we're playing this. And, we'd also like to play Brass, but it kind of depends. Like maybe we're going to play one of these at 7 o'clock. And then we have some kind of backup options if we're not advancing in any of these things at 9 o'clock. Sort of a messy day, very messy day. Okay, Saturday, we're not playing nothing in the morning. Rough. Brass semifinals. Everdell semifinals. Ooh. I don't know that I can plan to not be here. And then I think I'm actually also doing the finals at 1. So 9 to 11 and then probably 11 to 1. I'm going to make note of other things just in case I can lean on an assistant GM or something in case I don't advance in these. But I'm going to say that this does move Brass down significantly for me. The fact that it's going to conflict with my semifinal of the game that I'm running. Yeah, Age of Renaissance at that time, Great Western Trail. So these games have moved down, so we're not going to be playing Age of Renaissance this year. Great Western Trail, again, it's already kind of moved down the list for me, but I think this might just be a year where we don't play GWT, which is really pretty heartbreaking. Won't be playing any of these games at 10 because I got Everdell going on. And then Everdell's final here is, where is it? Is Charioteer have a semifinal? It does at 9 o'clock. So Charioteer is we no longer really care about playing this game at 10. This is no longer important. We advance. We could play it for fun, but it's not significant for us to play. During the final, if I don't advance, I could go do something else, but it looks like I have literally nothing else that I'd even want to be doing in this time. So looks like I'm going to be taking good notes at the final this year. Which is just fine. Actually, a little bit happy with that scheduling. Then I'm not going to be advancing in any of these things at 12 o'clock here. So we're looking back to being free at 1. Can play Puerto Rico or Space Base. Don't really care too much for either of those games. This is an instance where I wish that I did like Castles of Burgundy because the semifinal here is at a really good time and there's not much else going on. So we're skipping past 2 o'clock where I don't really care for Pirates Cove. I don't even know what MBT is. And then we're on to 3. So we're going to have a really slow Saturday, it looks like. I guess we could say if we play Concordia. We're not very good at that game. I think I also need to acknowledge that Terraforming Mars just isn't going to happen this year either. Galaxy Trucker semifinal not conflicting with stuff this year? Is that possible? Maybe. That's wild. I guess let's mark that we could play Space Base at 1, even though it's a silly game. Just to get into something if we got nothing else going on. All right, 5 o'clock. Raw dice. Gangsters, I guess. We got nothing else going on. But hopefully we have that, or Space Base, or Underwater Cities, or Concordia. Or Robo Rally or Space Station Phoenix, which I won't mark because there's so many conflicts with those in the prior day. 6 o'clock, we've got Lost Cities again. Or maybe by some insane fluke, we've advanced in Dune Imperium. Was there a second heat of this today that I missed? They both in the prior day? Dune Imperium. Where are you? DI, 2 o'clock. Heat 2. So, yes, I missed it somewhere else. Dune Imperium, 8 o'clock on Thursday. Oh, I did mark that. I didn't remember that. Because it's getting late. We can't break up this process. It's one functioning mind at this point in time. We're juggling a lot. We're keeping our notes. And this will help set us up for a successful year. Per usual. All right. Dune Imperium. We've got more raw dice. 6, 7, 8, whatever. You can see that the system gets a lot uglier as time goes by. Galaxy Trucker is 4 to 6 to 8. So what does that mean here? I mean, we've got conflicting stuff like Galaxy Trucker, Raw Dice, Underwater Cities, Concordia, and Dune Imperium. But I'm not marking these because none of them are that important to me. So generally what happens is if I advance in one, it just automatically knocks all the rest of them off of my schedule for the rest of the time. So if I like played Underwater Cities, saw that I was advancing in it, I'm like, oh great, I don't need to worry about playing Galaxy Trucker anymore, unless it just fits in nicely and I can have a nice fun time. But it makes that a little bit cleaner. Same thing with Dune Imperium. Like, yeah, I want to play, but if I've already advanced in these other games, like, I don't need to make it a priority. I can just kind of focus on playing that sometime else. Friday is really just the like play Lost Cities if I don't advance in other things day, I guess. Battle Cry, Brass File, Raw Dice Game. 8 o'clock we got, I guess, Gangsters maybe. Ooh, Faction 5. Faction 5 is always nice. You didn't advance. Max in 5 because it's just so much fun. Nothing else for the. I mean, there's a handful of things the rest of the night for like finals and semifinals, even ones that I might play in, but there are none that I like care a ton about. All right, and then what we do is we always hope that we're playing Castles of Mad King von Ludwig on Sunday. I guess outside of that, it's like Ticket to Ride or Gangsters. or reschedule, right? Those are the other options. That's generally the case with Sundays. I either advance in castles or I don't. I'd like for there to be one of the games. Usually there's some conflict. That'd be really nice if it was on Sunday. People don't generally want to reschedule onto Sundays either because they want to be going home, which I totally understand. But it ends up essentially being like a 8-day convention rather than a 9-day convention, which is no complaints, I guess, for having an 8-day vacation. But I don't know. It would be nice if there was like a little bit more, I think, that happened on this day. Okay, so we have kind of our like list of things that we think we're going to do. We're going to like tuck this with us when we're walking around the convention center. We have a few things, and obviously there's so many undecided factors here, but there were a number of things that we did get cleared up for us, like in terms of like where we could move things up the priority chart. So like, for instance, we know we're not playing Age of Renaissance. We're playing Through the Ages or Terra Mystica, and both are fine, so we can kind of decide. We decided that Great Western Trail's probably not happening this year, which to me says that this is not going to be a high laurel year. Just the way that the schedule is working out for us, this is not a very promising moment. We've got like one instance of Scythe where we can get into the semifinals, and it's pretty awkward with our other games, which is going to decrease our chances of like getting into other things. It's another game that we score in a fair amount. Automobile, another game that we score in a decent amount, but it's very low player count, means it's not worth very many points, and it's fairly time consuming because it's a 3-hour game, but we just don't get to play it anywhere else, so that's kind of the reality there. Obviously GMing a game takes a little bit of a block of your life out when you're kind of trying to maximize, but Everdel's a game that I like. I honestly am not even really considering this one for the laurels. I don't think I'm going to do that well in it, but there's always a chance, I guess. But it's funny, it's not really how I treat this game. That's sort of my more like giving back side of the convention, I guess. Terraforming Mars is a game, and Wingspan's a game that I'd like to play, but I think in reality they just end up conflicting with too many things at too many other points, which is actually making me go back to this and wonder if this Scythe maybe becomes the game that I play. Like if I don't advance and if I don't play Through the Ages, instead I play Terra Mystica, I don't think I'm giving up that much. So then I'd be choosing Scythe over Terraforming Mars Wingspan, and then I would still have an opportunity to play one of these games at 10 o'clock. Like that's pretty appealing. So I might end up playing that heat there because then I have a couple more options about what's going on Monday. Now I remember, of course, that Brass is down a little bit in my factors because of the way that the semifinals is conflicting with stuff. I would really like to play, but I can prioritize some of the other stuff that I'm a little bit more into. If I end up playing Terra Mystica here, it's pretty clean for getting into Gaia Project here. That way I don't have to give up this Gaia Project for this Scythe. And the 4 to 7 works very nicely with these other 7 o'clock games. So for some reason I don't get into this Arc Nova, I can play in this Arc Nova. Also, if I lose this Scythe game, then I can go back to sort of the original plan that we talked about, where we're playing Scythe from 6 to 9 here. So, and more and more I'm talking about, the more I'm actually thinking that I'm liking this 7 o'clock Scythe game a fair amount, which is, again, moving Terra Mystica up for a little bit more for me than Through the Ages in terms of like which of those I'd rather advance in. Because I'm willing to sacrifice the stuff on this afternoon, I think a little bit more than I'm willing to sacrifice on the evening here, because it gives me potentially back this Scythe block, which gives me back essentially 1 or 2 other games that I want to play. So I'm digging that quite a bit. Tuesday, it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Wednesday, we know that if we've got Scythe, we're not really messing around with Adele or maybe even Azul too much, which is totally good to know, just in terms of like those not being that important for us. So we appreciate having that information. We know that Root might not happen this year. We have a lot of games that we want to play that just aren't really working with our schedule this year. Already said the Great Western Trail thing. Arc Nova also obviously makes our lives difficult. If we just end up playing a game of Arc Nova and losing in one round, that's the ideal. The worst is when we play get to the semifinals and then die there. That's kind of the worst for our schedule in a lot of ways. This Thursday is pretty littered with stuff. I think I'm just gonna have to make that call when I get closer and see what things look like. This Friday really is just sort of like all games that I may or may not have advanced in. So it's going to decide that. And Saturday is even more sparse for that. Saturday is unfortunately really sparse in terms of like, there's not a lot that I'm even really thinking that I'm going to advance in. Like, Terraforming Mars, I've already said, it's just so time consuming. Concordia is a game that I don't even know if I'll like have on the schedule. Like, we've got nothing going on in the early afternoon here. I mean, ideally, if I was able to reschedule, if I'm in 2 simultaneous finals and I'm able to reschedule on a Saturday, like that's something that I have to keep in mind, is that like there's a lot of stuff here that I'm willing to sacrifice to reschedule some other stuff along the way there. So that's the insane process. I am so impressed. If you watched me do this for 65 minutes, that would be absolutely insane. I got to look at it and see if it's even interesting to post, but whatever. I guess it doesn't cost me anything at this point. So hope you enjoyed if you did watch, and have a wonderful WBC. If you aren't coming or you haven't heard about this convention yet, I'd love to talk about it more. It's just such a wonderful place, such a wonderful time. And I hope to see those of you who are coming there. Ciao, everyone.